in the hot seat, where we elevate the voices, the stories, and strength of our Polynesian people across the world. We welcome all our viewers, especially the ones from the Pacific region, but also welcome those who are viewing from the United States and the other parts of the world. I'm your host, Chief Tasiafe Arlington. I hail from the beautiful village of Ailo, Tai, American Samoa, and have ties into Umanua through my father and Fitiuta through my mother's side. I currently reside in Norman, Oklahoma, proud alum of the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner. Joining me today are wonderful panel members whom I will allow them to introduce themselves. She hails from Houston, Texas, the co-founder and co-host of Pulse of Polynesia. Welcome, Dassel.
Hello, everybody. Leasa Filoeli'i, all the way down in Houston, Texas. Welcome.
Thanks, Leaso. Also from the great state of Texas, we welcome Brother Kalani.
Howdy, y'all. From Bedford, Texas. Well, coming to you from Bedford, Texas. I'm actually from the village of Tula, and great to be here and ready to discuss some awesome topics today. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks, Brother Kalani. We also welcome from California, but he also resides in American Samoa. We welcome Brother Moni.
Aloha, Bulavinaka, Kia ora te whānau, Awhadei, Yorana, Malolele, Maloni, Soifuamanuia, everyone. Warm Pacific greetings to all of our viewers across the Pacific and here in the diaspora. I am tuning in and talking to you from the unceded ancestral lands of the Chumash people and the Tongva tribe of Southern California. But I'm a proud son of Samoa and Tokelau. It's a pleasure to be here, everyone. Faftai.
Thank you, Brother Moni. Not a stranger to Pulse of Polynesia, as we recently had him on our podcast, Hot Seat, and few weeks back. Welcome, Brother Uchenna. You're on mute there, Uchenna.
Talofa lava. How's everybody doing? I'm Uchina Famawina Eze. I'm residing in California. Great to be here. Can't wait to dive into these exciting topics.
Thank you. So, last but not least, we welcome from the wonderful state of Las Vegas, Nevada. From Las Vegas, Nevada, Crystal.
Talafalava. My name is Crystal Stephanie from the beautiful village of Alau, and am grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Crystal. And hello to Janet. I see we have our viewers commenting as well. So before we begin, we'll put out a disclaimer every time we have our panel. So the perspectives shared on this podcast reflect the personal views and experience of each guest. While we may not all agree, Pulse of Polynesia honors open dialogue and diverse voices. These views do not necessarily reflect those of Pulse of Polynesia, its team, or its affiliated organizations. This discussion is intended for educational, cultural, and awareness purposes only. Some topics may be sensitive or controversial in nature. However, we encourage listeners to engage with care and respect. We're here to open dialogue, not to accuse, defame, or target any individual or institution. So, by joining us today and continue to listen and participate, you do acknowledge that all the commentary is shared in good faith and is legally protected under the freedom of speech and fair use for educational purposes. So, that's our disclaimer for our viewers. Well, let's get right into it. Panel, we begin with land and legacy. Land and legacy, always a heated topic for us Samoans, but also for those across the Pacifica. What are your thoughts on land ownership and any impact on unresolved land disputes which affect our generational trauma, identity, and sense of belonging? So, we have our newcomer, Crystal. We'll start with you.
Thank you so much for the question and the opportunity. Um, Land is super important to us, especially being from Samoa, and the ties that we have through our ancestors from generation to generation. And as I was thinking, there's so much land disputes going on during this time. And so basically what I feel is right is that those that kind of like have you know, from generation to generation, we should have the rights to those lands and being able to take the land so we could at least build our home and for our posterity. The problems that we've been having, especially in my family, is that my great grandfather had, you know, a couple of friends that weren't doing so well in other areas in their villages, and he would invite them to our village and, you know, had designated some land for them. Well, now the people that live on that land think it's their land, you know, and I don't have a problem with that issue. The issue lays is when we have our children coming back home to want to at least claim land, or what with me at least wanting to retire to go back home and at least, because I still have a house that's built. It's not at its best right now, but it is still there standing. But I would like to go back home when I retire so that we could have that home for myself and my children and my grandchildren and so forth. But because of the land disputes with family members, it kind of makes it hard for me to try to get the house back into motion or rebuilt up.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. Kalani, do you want to add on to Crystal's comments, or do you have
Yeah.
something different?
Just wanted to start out with the story. I like to say a story about the farmer. It's a story about the farmer and the son that was actually working on the land. And growing up, and this farmer, his dad always talked to his son about, son, there's always important about this land. It's our pride, and it's also something that we cherish, and it's for the benefit for your kids, your kids' kids, and all that. So we have to protect it and make sure that when your kids come over and come back and live here, there's always a piece of land for them. And then the son's sister married into somebody, and then this person came from outside. And actually came in with some really good abilities and actually good, work ethics as well. And he was also raised as a farmer as well. And then when son-in-law was actually working with the son and the dad, the son realized that, his brother-in-law is a very good guy. He's also a family-oriented guy. And then he went ahead and had a talk with his father. He told his father, you know what, Dad? I see our brother, my brother-in-law. He's a very good guy, and I just want to let you know that I have to go and seek for opportunities. I want to go look for a pride. I want to go look for somebody that I can marry into, and hopefully someday that I can bring my family. Since my sister's already married to somebody, I see this person right here is very good. He's a good serviceman. So, long story short, the father didn't agree, but he had to respect his son's decision. So the son actually have to go and seek for opportunities and actually found somebody. But in the meantime, the father and his son-in-law developed a good relationship, and also became a good service to the family as well. So when the son returned with his family and with his wife, he realized that the dad had really developed this relationship between him and his son-in-law. And to me, I think the story is that there's so much respect between these gentlemen, the father, the son, and the son-in-law. And I want to go to what Crystal was saying, piggybacking on what she was talking about. Since I consider myself as a son in the story, coming up here looking for opportunity, and I do have some people and some of my brother-in-laws that actually are living at the land right now. I respect them; they're good servicemen and stuff like that. And to me, if I put myself as a son-in-law, I will always respect the family's legacy. Their legacy is to protect the land and to be able to preserve it for their generations, because they're the ones that actually started it. And I think that what Crystal, I know Crystal was saying that is true. Um, there are some advantages that's been taken to some outsiders to actually marry into the family, that think that they have ties in the family, that they, not to put it in harsh way, but there's a way that our Matai system that we look at people that actually bring their service to the family, and when they come in the family, and the Matais will look at them. This guy is really good. He is That's where our tautua comes in. It's been tautua for a while in his family, and he's bringing all these services to our family, and he deserves to have a Matai name. And these are some of the people that I could place myself into as a son-in-law for my wife's family. I respect everything as far as the land and the family and everything as well. And I think that that's been taken advantage for some of the people that are actually married into the family. I think that they have the ties in the family that they should at least have that power to be able to claim some of the land that are actually living in, not knowing that they should respect the legacy of that family because some of the members are actually seeking opportunity and are planning to return back. So the dispute itself that now is getting to the point to where that the families are having trouble to settle these in the back or at their family and have to take it to the court system. So that's where all these paperwork and all the legal documents comes in. And to me, my question is it necessary for all those documents? Is it really necessary to take this to court, knowing that a lot of families have the stories about their land, and that's why our land have a burial site that we have our my ancestors that are buried up there. And to me, um, I'm glad and I'm so blessed to have these my members that are buried there because on their tombstones there are some dates on it, and to me that'll validate any dates or anything that I don't need any paperwork to say that hey, this is my land. These are people that were born way before 1900s or so that it's actually that been there in the land. So I'm sure that there's a lot of disputes out there, and I hope and I wish that uh, our Polynesian, not only Samoa but everywhere in the Polynesian, that uh, tell your story. Your story will validate everything, and that story will always penetrate a lot of people's mind and heart to where that this guy and this person and all these members that actually raised in this land, they do have something in it, and it's their identity, and that's where they come from. So that's my take upon it. Uh, Puff tie level.
Thank you, brother Kalani. So far, what I've captured, mentioned between both of you two so far, we bring in the fayava, or those who are married into the families, and then we also mentioned the service, the tautua part, and then now the new question that's also added on to what we've said so far was, um, where does the family blood rights, um, if you were to rank it in priority of land, um, the adopted guys or the ones that are married into it, should they trump the blood relatives when it comes to land ownership? So that's what I take so far, but I'll leave it to the remaining of the panel to elaborate further on those additional information brought in. So we go to Leaso.
I like just like Crystal, we're going through a current battle right now in court with our family and a couple of other people trying to claim land and also claiming that it's ridiculous because they're saying that my mom is not the daughter of so and so, and it's sad because like what Kalani was mentioning about, we have stories too, and some of the stories, which is way different from everybody else that's going to be talked about, is has to do with the spirits. Like having our family buried in front of our land. There was a time when we had one of my uncles prepare for his funeral, and we had to dig one of the plots of the land, and we found remains, ancient remains. And so those ancient remains were brought to surface, and all of our aunties got together with the coconut oil and started cleaning the bones. And that evening, we had the bones placed in our sleeping area. And I remember my dad, who this is not his family, is this is my mom's land, her family's land. And I remember my dad had brought his brother to stay with us at that time. And I was sleeping, and all of a sudden, I heard my uncle screaming and yelling, and he ran out the house. And he took off, and he asked one of our family members to take him to another village in New Uli, because he saw the spirit from from the remains that was placed in our sleeping area, and told him to get out of our home. You are not related to us. And and that really confirmed that, this is not your land. Do Is it necessary to go through paperwork to prove that this is your land, my land? No, we have stories. We know this is our land. But if it has to go through paperwork to show these documents, so be it. But at the same time, when it comes to our ancestors, they you can't hide from that. You just can't hide from the truth and from the spirits of our ancestors coming to you to tell you the truth of who owns this land and who does it. But that's my take on regarding the land situation. Thank you.
The voices of our loved ones that have passed on, the spirits, are still there, and we're all familiar with those situations. That we always say in Samoa, be careful. You know, it's not an area you want to mess with. So, not going to go too much into that. Thank you, also, for sharing that, brother Uchena.
I was really going to say that your bloodline really ties everything for you, your titles, your ancestral identity, and not just because of who you are in your Ainga, but most importantly, I'm looking at it from the standpoint where the in-laws are coming in, right? Because we are starting to see a lot of that happen, especially with the Fayabas coming in, right? And that are stepping in these roles and families. I'm very, with the respect of the in-laws, because, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to give them respect, especially the son-in-law, right? Um, I'm more curious about how the supportive role in that is, and as far as the son-in-law serving for the family, right? Doing some of the advising, some of the working, and you know, carrying after the elders of the family as well. And sometimes, and I hate to say it, but sometimes our other family members take a liking to them, right? Or to him or her, or whatever the case may be, and they do leave stuff behind. And so I'm very curious about that, and because that's an area you really don't hear about as much, and they are petitioning for land and rights for family members, right? And they do know secrets of family members that they carry, and so I think one sad part, and I heard Lay also mention this earlier. I know that we have some family members doing some stuff in court right now over some land. And when the truth comes out that you're not a bloodline relative, right? That forget the land at this point. You've been hiding this secret from me, and I've been, and I think that hurts sometimes, but it also carries a lot of weight, right? Because though bloodline is a birthright, in-laws are bound by service, and they're bound by service. And so we want to make sure that I'm just, that's a very interesting talk. And this is a very interesting topic. But we always marry into families. And so, we're watching this play out in front of us with the ideal of preserving the rights and the lands. Kalani said something very interesting. When I went to Africa, I went to Nigeria, I was in comparison, right? Obviously, around the world, burial rights and things and land, Africa is very, very much in the chief system, right? And so I went with my father to going through the villages, and, he's talking about his land and then his brother's land and all these family members' land. But one of the things that struck me was there were big tombstones and coffins in the front of the house, the same way as in Samoa, and these dates and land and people and how they honor them and their service of them is so important. So this is a very important piece of who we are and identity, but also more importantly, we just don't want the land to go to the wrong people. At the end of the day, we want to be able to preserve that, preserve the history, our culture, and um, make sure that the next generation knows what's ahead of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chena. You bring up a good point. The adopted families, and I'll just keep this short because I know Moni's got a lot to bring. For my family, it's always been in a history of another family, and I won't mention the name. So we knew that 3 or 4 generations ago, land was gifted to like what you guys are stating. Another family their out of the love for that family and their contribution into our family, and a large portion of our land was given to them. Fast forward to many generations now, our family's looking at it and saying, "That's our land. How do we get it back?" Well, you can't get it back, right? It was gifted, and now that land has been used by that family for so long, but it's in the court records where it was gifted, but it's now theirs. But then now, as the generations expand, you know, you want to give it to them, the bloodline that's now increased, but you can't. So I'll just keep it as that, and I'll pass it on to Brother Moni.
Yeah, whaftai lava mo le nea wanoa, whaftai fo e le whaasoa mai I lungan tatou peno. E se matango fio fisoai, e se fo I manatu. First of all, can I just say that this is the longest I've been on this podcast without being interrupted. So thank you, CIA, for not cutting me off when all jokes aside. Ile amatanga tato talanoa. At the beginning of this podcast, when you were having us all introduce ourselves, in my introduction, was recognizing the unceded ancestral lands in which I am standing on at the moment. It's ancestral land that belonged to the Chumash people, the nation, and the Tongva tribes. Tangata ia na mua I Malay. These were the first who came on these soils. But I want to recognize the reason why I did that. And the reason why I did that is because, one, I'm recognizing those who came first. Let who comes last ask those who came first. And they came first in this land. But the second reason why I recognize the Chumash nation and the Tongva tribe is because itawi fo ia te au le mana ma le whanua ma ele no foanga ngā mea ngā tupunga mai tato tuaa. It's also very important to me where my ancestors came from, where I come from. And so, land acknowledgement is important. It is a part of our identity. Before I go into the whole more specific land problems or land contentions or debates in Samoa, I also want to, like others on the panel, emphasize the importance of land across the world, specifically also here in Pacifica. Amo ia tātou tangata Samoa, ona o Samoa, e iwas fulpasene o atunu atua, o tangata o ainga lai o ninga, lai pulea I lunga tātou whanua. We are so blessed as Samoans. Over 90% of our islands are owned by us, the Ainga. Unfortunately, that's not the case in other parts of Pacifica. That's not the case in other parts of Polynesia. You go to Aotearoa, New Zealand. Guess what? Less than 10% of New Zealand is Maori land. You go to Guam, our cousins there. 40% of the island is owned by Ainga. The other 60% is owned by federal and local government. More than half. You go to Hawaii, don't get us started. Our cousins in Hawaii, Kanaka Maoli, they're the lowest when it comes to percentile land ownership. They have Kuleana land, but the majority of the land is privately owned, if not by individuals, but by corporations, and of course through the federal and local government. And so Because we're Samoan, we have this perspective of the importance of land, but more so the others and their perspective because they lost it. And they always say, that saying, you don't know, what goods you got until you lose it. Uh, Ay amuia tatou tangata Samoa o lo upule tatou I ilunga tatou lava whanua. And with that comes trauma. With that comes trauma. With that comes, a detriment to our mental health. Why? Because land is us and we are land. And when you have land taken away from you, that's taking away part of your being. Uh, we had some shares about spirits coming up and old ancestors, reviving. We heard on the panel already about bodies being buried outside of our homes. I say, ongo toi fo itato to a ilemena tupunga mayai. Our ancestors returned to whence they came from, and that is land. Uh, there's a reason why the land cries, because the land is a living being. And so I'm reminded of a Fasamoa proverb. Uh, and I can't, if I can.
You still with us, Brother Moni? I want to make sure the CIA didn't get you this time.
Right, I was thinking that myself.
Hello,
I think
hello,
this time
hello.
it's FBI.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
All right.
We got you, Moni.
Okay. Final CIA. So there's a Samoan proverb. Ole la awe mo wa ifale. Ele ele tuto ifafu ifanua. Basically, that Samoan proverb means there are plants that are in the home that needs not be planted in the fanua. Why? Because we are fanua. The plants in the home is us, and we are connected to the land. Eo foi tato upu, our vocabulary, our language emphasizes our inner being and oneness with fanua. The word fatu means heart, but guess what? Fatu also means seed. And from both seed and fatu grows what? It grows life. Another word in Fasamoa is fanua. Fanua is land, but fanua is also a body part, seitulo. It's the placenta. And like fanua and placenta, both give nutrients and life to living beings. Ah, ol fanua feolai tangata. So eletioa e afia mamafa tato tangata afai tato te ave ese fanua. No wonder why when it comes to land, it really impedes on our being and our growth. It impedes on our life. And so, in Samoa, we're very unique. We have, as an American Samoa, we are a U.S. territory, as we all know. But because of that U.S. territorial status, that means we are sovereign to a bigger nation, the United States. And as a U.S. territory, we are officially unincorporated and unorganized within the Union of the U.S. What does that mean? We are only partially implied by the Constitution of the U.S., which gives us a little bit of autonomy. So that also means that we have in our own Constitution of American Samoa, specifically in Article 3, the right to own land. And if you do own land, you must be at least 50% Samoan born or Samoan um, blood. That was put there. And I'm not a big fan of quantum blood. I'm not. I don't like to look at ourselves as percentiles. If you say I'm half Samoan, does that mean only half of my body is Samoan? It's hard to quantify. But that was done because it was to protect what we have left. It was to protect our lands. And it was ono to whamamau man whautanga tato tua na puipuia tato whanua. And because of that law, 2025, 90% of the country is still belonging to the family. Now, then you also have codified laws. These are laws that are amended by the high courts in Samoa based on individual cases. And then, of course, the third factor is the Matai system. These are things that are and decisions that are made within the nu'u, within our districts. Dala nuanga I Matai ma tangata matutua ma ainga I tutonu lava o nu'u ma I tumalo. E fua mai fo I unga. So these discussions that are held within councils of villages also impacts decisions on land, which we talked about on this podcast so far. But all in all, these factors that impact land ownership in Samoa, it's hard to look at land when you're looking through lenses of Western society. And it's just as hard to look at land through the lens of indigenous eyes. But let us never forget, whatever the internal turmoils and internal debates and infighting in your own personal family, all in all, ese anga nu'u, ese anga ifanua. And what that means is, what is culture across the board is also different. What is culture and behaviors that are taught to you by the specific land from which you come from. And like in the words of Auntie Kalala, if you have one drop of Samoan in your veins, then you belong to us and we claim you. And I'm not talking about personal infighting, because we're all going to have that in our own families. But as identity, as a Samoan and as a Tangata Pacifica, you are intricately and you are imperatively connected to Whanua, whether you live in the States, Australia, New Zealand, or Ifafo, o tato tuam o ina tapunga mai, tato Whanua. Yeah, also umanatu vai. That was my 2 cents. I appreciate the share from others on the panel of Taimon Avenue.
Tailava Sanuanga Moni. A lot there lot to pack. 2 cents, but very, very weighted. But there's a question, Moni. I know you mentioned earlier percentile. So the 50% blood quantum doesn't necessarily have to be American Samoa, right? Just Samoa in general, right? Including Upolu and Savaii, right? In order for you to own land in American Samoa.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right. And before we wrap up this segment, I just want to remind folks in American Samoa, there may be a site, in Upolu, and Moni probably knows if there's a equivalent site to the American Samoa Bar Association. So we've already did a segment on that, for folks. There's a lot of land disputes, cases that have already occurred. So if you are trying to figure out what happened to your land, you knew that land went to court at some point, go to the American Samoa Bar Association. You'll find all those court cases, court rulings, and how those decisions are decided. So I just want to add that to this whole conversation, to direct your attention to it. They also, you may have to cover down storms. I can hear the storms rolling outside. So if I get cut off for any reason, Lasso, just go ahead and take over for the remainder of the segment.
Okay.
So very good segment there. I enjoyed the topic and a lot to learn from. Just trying to wrap it up. I don't want to move on because does anyone want to talk about business ownership? I know we talked about blood quantum when it came to land, but have we looked into business ownership versus tautua and brother-in-law, fayavas? Does anyone want to cover that real quick? If not, we can cover that in a follow-on segment. Okay. All right. So we'll jump on to our next one, education and success. So this topic is more is more of a thoughtful piece. And we're looking at in comparing those who go and seek trade, as a career, versus those who pursue the college route and their means to, looking for a career. So it seems like the trend has shifted more towards trade versus going the college route. Um, just want to pick your brains and what are your thoughts? Is the college route something of the past, and the trade seems like the more preferable means, nowadays? So, Lasso, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Arlington. We were always told in back in Samoa to get an education, especially where, growing up as a child, you get kind of tired of going in circles in a small island, and you try to work as much as you can to get off the island. And education was there was two ways. It was either go to college or join the military. I took the route of getting my education, and although it took a long time because I had family and I decided to go to school, um, I ended up with a six-figure debt in my education. Although I had a scholarship for my bachelor's, my master's degree kind of took a toll on me. And the purpose of trying to get my education was to be able to sustain a reliable income for my family. Even though I had to go through a longer route, there was a lot of classes that were very unnecessary, and it cost too much to have to go through 2 years of these unnecessary classes to get to the core classes, and that costs so much money. But I had to go through that route. Now with my kids going to college, I tell them, look, what I've gone through in my life and what was told is a lot different from the route that you're going to have to take. And although the majors that they're into, engineering, is required for them to go through the route that I had to go through, but I also am telling them to implement current situation that relies that is necessary, as in AI, utilizing the current AI situation to apply to their major. And at the same time, with my other child, I tell them, hey, if college is not the route for you, I need you to get yourself used to acclimate it into a field that you're interested in, because there are a lot of people that are diving into government contracting, having their own businesses on the side and being very successful in that way. You go on YouTube and you can learn a lot about business there with AI. And just like what my sister, who was here on the other panel, and she's in education, she has taught me to dive also into AI as well, because there are going to be a lot of businesses who don't need accountants, who don't need CPAs. And so, because of that, I need to get into something else that's going to sustain me in case my job is no longer needed. And so I say for those who are getting into education, yeah, go for it. I mean, if you want to do it, do it. I'm very grateful that I was able to get my master's, but at the same time, also dive into other things that will be a backup for you. There are people who are getting into their own businesses and becoming successful, educating themselves without having to go through the education route of college. They're educating themselves by being experienced in things of learning the field of business through hands-on, getting themselves to understand by reading on their own how to do businesses, accounting, all that stuff. But that's my take. Not everybody does not have the same route, but as far as education, it just depends on the person. But at the same time, also have a backup to fall onto in case your field is not no longer required. Thank you.
Okay, well said, Lasso. And I think part of what I'm reading from you is high income, right? College still resulted in high income. You still achieve that, but at the same time, it comes with a high debt cost compared to someone pursuing a trade. So that's the trade off. Not really knocking it. There's some downsides of pursuing a college route, but then the reality is it comes with a significant amount of debt the higher you proceed up, the masters and, you know, up to your PhD. So, all right, thanks, Liaso. We'll go to Crystal.
Okay,
You're on mute there.
thank you. So basically, I think growing up, especially in American Samoa, we're always taught, education, education, education is key to success, right? It's kind of cliche now that we hear that over and over and over again. My parents did it. They went to college, got their degrees and everything like that. I'm really, really successful. And so, what I've learned, um, sometimes I wish we had classes pertaining to finances and everything like that, telling us, especially with piggybacking with Leaso, about these classes that were so unnecessary for us to take in college. Like, we could have just done away with that and went straight to the core classes so that way we could get directly to where we needed to go instead of having to take those certain curriculums or whatever it is necessary to get to the degree that you are pursuing. Now, with that being said, I've experienced and seen other people without degrees to where they're so super successful. And it's because of like the company that I used to work for, the Australian company that I used to work for, they've spent time, money, and their efforts in training and giving extensive training to their employees because they value them so much and they want them to climb the corporate ladder as well. And what better way to promote than from within your own rather than from outside, right? And and being in management, a lot of the times we would hire people with experience. It's a plus to have the degree, but if a person had the experience versus someone that just got out of college, we'd prefer to get the person with experience because then we could pay them a little bit below wages, right? Because they don't have that degree, but they can still work up with the corporate ladder. Now, with being a business owner for about 10 plus years, it was really hard for me because that wasn't my background. My background is medical. And so when I started to be in the financial industry, it's when I started to learn so much more on how to handle the business. And I didn't have an accountant. I had to be my own accountant, like every single day, having to know where things were spent, how much money we need to at least um, bring in order for our business to survive each and every month. And so that was a learning curve for me, just trying to learn all these things and then thinking to myself, man, I can learn all these things, but not just by YouTube, but also you also have professionals that will also help you. You find ways, you find people that are professionals in that field, and you can ask specific questions on what you could do as well. Knowledge is not just through school, but knowledge is everywhere. You just got to find the way to think outside of the box in order for you to be successful in life is how I feel. Now, of course, with being a doctor or a surgeon or um, a nurse, of course, you need a degree for that. I wouldn't want somebody that has no kind of experience or no background in the medical field being my doctor and saying, "Oh, you have cancer," when it's diabetes. So, it to me, uh, financial wise, if I had someone tell me um, the types of degrees which will benefit you as far as income is concerned, then take that route rather than taking a degree to where if you're spending $100,000 on that degree and then you get into your field and you're only making $30,000, it doesn't make any kind of sense to me to have, your degree in that background. But if I had that support system to where someone could at least guide me and tell me this is the roles or this is where you need to go to make this and that, or be financially in tune with the things that you go. Because right now I'm in so much debt with school. I'm like almost like like almost $100,000 in debt. But the benefits of it is, you get a higher yield of the income route, right? But yeah, that's just my take on it. I feel like education is a necessity in our lives because knowledge is power. However, as far as college versus trade, you can both be successful both ways, either or. Thank you.
Before we proceed, I haven't looked at. Do we have any comments from our viewers, Lasso? If not, we can continue. Okay. Okay. I think we're still good, right? Okay. Web 3.0 crypto AI takeover. Okay. Minority Report. Okay. So Crystal, echoing what Lasso said, high yield jobs. If you're going to college, make sure that degree is something that guarantees you'll get that income, not something that there's going to be debt. So if you're going to get a low paying degree, then chances are you will always be behind the curve. So it was almost a wasted. But I also want to mention the difference of those who pursue a degree for passion rather than money. So if you're satisfied that you've achieved what you were seeking in getting a degree or with a trade, if that's what you have a passion for and you enjoy it, then good. Not everyone is driven by money, but if you ask me, um, I'm driven by money. I have to have something to pay the bill. So let's go over to Brother Kalani.
Hey, well, I think that's a good topic about why Polynesian youth choose trades, workforce, uh, and rather than education. And I think to me, I would refer to where that my experience growing up as a kid. I was my parents, they didn't graduate as college, or so my whole life was actually raised in the land or on the land as well, growing crops, bananas. We were raising pigs, go out fishing. At the same time, my dad and my mom will always tell me that you better wake up early in the morning to go to school, and that was about it. So, um, I my take upon it is, I guess it's a how you were raised, and also uh, it's a personal preference for some of our Polynesian kids. And I would basically speak on our Psalm one side, our fa'alavi beloveds. And most of us, when we come up here and then we seek jobs, and we always think about home all the time. We're always thinking about our fa'alavi beloveds and helping our families back home. And to go into trade or jobs that we can actually get as fast as we can, so that that paycheck can hit, so that way we can always help our families back home. And I believe that the thing, how we were raised, maybe if I'm wrong, but maybe I would say 15, 10, or maybe 10 or 9% of some of the parents that I know back home that actually pursue that career as far as getting the college degrees and get that success and is actually exposed to the life up here in the westernized culture. And they bring it down there and actually tell their kids, look, this is the way, and this is the passport and the key to life is education. Versus the other majority of the percentage of the public back home, that kids like me raising up, all I know was I got to get up, feed the pigs, feed my chickens, make sure that all my clothes is all neat before I go to school. So shower first before, I guess. And from elementary time all the way to high school. I think around junior year, well, sophomore year, that's when I started to realize, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with my life? I was never introduced. I didn't have any mentorships or somebody that is actually there to push me. Hey, you got to go get an education, get a degree, because this is where you need to be. Not knowing that I will be appear in the States for the rest of my life, exploring the westernized world and the culture and the stuff that you have to do with this so-called land of the free, but actually it's not free at all. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, you got to have something in your account. So not to go further more about that, but I think that a solution for our Polynesian, no matter where you at in the Polynesian islands, now we have the resources, especially the internet, all these platforms. What our panel has been discussed. If all of us in our generation back in the days had YouTube and all these Googles and everything, guess what? We would have been probably doctors. We would have been probably pilots because we won't need anything. The natural experience and the natural respect and everything that we were taught when we were kids, we would pay attention to these because our parents will sit there with a lie out or anything, read and watch YouTube about how you're going to become a pilot. If you don't become a pilot, I'm going to suss at your head, you know? But we didn't have that back in the days. Now it's up to us to push our kids, like what Sister Leaso was saying. A lot of jobs that are, it's sad to say, but ideas nowadays is going to be obsolete. AI is going to take over. You're just going to go to YouTube, all that information and ideas, and with an instant reply, all the ideas will provide for you. All the human natural thinkings and ideas that you're going to have to write down and try to explain it to some of these kids, that will be obsolete. And I hate to say it, but I think it's true because all these platforms and all these internet and everything. Well, you already know over here in Texas, over there, the city of Abilene, about 2 hours west of us, that's going to be the biggest structure of the AI building that's going to be there at $500 billion. So yeah, so big things are coming. Technology world will be here, and it's already here, but it will take off like no other. So my thing is that for the youth and all the generations in the Polynesian islands, you have our natural resources, um, land, the ocean, um, carpenter as well. That's most of the things that I realized because my father was a carpenter. Learn these skills, these trades, and what Sister Crystal was saying. You can be a trade or become successful in a degree. Both of those are really good. My thing is that I don't think an AI can come down there and grow some crops down there and get you a banana or a breadfruit and make you some nice umu or how to raise a pig. I mean, of course, up here, but but these are some of the natural resources that I know that a lot of us in Polynesia should should at least take advantage of it and look into it because of the natural resources that we have that we grow up, like what Crystal was saying, we're natural learners. And these are experiences that we learn from, is from through life. So take that and advantage. And I hope that our government and everywhere in the Polynesian island to at least look into some of the programs to benefit these generations that are coming up. Look, you don't have to come up here in the States and to become all these, uh, get the degrees and stuff like that. You have all the stuff and the resources now. You have YouTube, you have internet and everything, you know. You can become a good farmer and you can sell some bananas from there and ship it up here in the States and become, a business owner. Just some of the ideas that I think that are very basic that I know that myself have gone away from me. And my dad always taught me that if you stick with the basics, one, two, three, guess what? Those steps will get you to the hundreds. But if you skip all those basics and everything, there will be no steps for you to get up to the 50s. You'll be stuck down there because you don't know the basic steps. So my take upon it is that I hope that we can, as a whole Polynesian, is to come together to implement a plan to where that we can use our natural resources to where that we can have our kids and to teach these kids trade, degree, or whatever. They're all both necessary for what we have. So that's my take upon it. Um, there's another thing that I would like to say is that uh, I wish I know this, but sometimes I think that money is not all good for everybody's life. Because when I was growing up, I was actually so happy with the life that I had. I wish I still go back and live that life. But it's because what I wish for that I don't want to do all the chores that I want to become an adult. I have to pay for that right now. So um, there are good things between the trade and education. But if you pick what you need to do and what you want to do for passion and everything, I think that will be something that we should at least have a program or something that in the Polynesians, Samoa, Tonga, everywhere in the Polynesian, to at least teach our kids or have some programs. Yeah, mentorships. Support is one of the number one things that our Polynesian do as a group. Support these kids, make them go work and get a degree or become one of the marine biologists, doctors or something, whatever you call those things, water, the land, and everything. So, not to go further more, but I hope I touch a little bit of it. That's my take upon it. Thank you.
Thanks, Brother Kalani, and very well put. Acknowledging both sides, and one of the things you mentioned earlier when you jumped on was a degree, and I think you could sort of describe, sort of my path, you know, and I think I share with a lot of Samoan kids growing up in Samoa is I came from poverty, and my family were mostly working in trade, and knowing what the route my family always took, no one really pursued an education, but I knew that looking at the other side, like why doesn't my family ever pursue education? So no one ever pushed me towards education, but just my mindset was, you know, are we as a family intimidated by, college? And I think that's what it was. So I took a shot at it in order I wanted to feel what that meant, right? And also part of me was, coming from Samoa is the challenge. You know, it's like I don't know what I'm getting to, but I will never know what it means if I never attempt it. So that was my pursuit, to challenge the norm. And once I got into college, I realized, some kid, I'm just this kid from Samoa. I'm competing with the kids from China. I'm outperforming the Chinese kids. I'm not being racist here, but I'm just saying the pride, because those were our intimidations. Like we always hear the foreigners are much smarter than us, but when you're competing, academically and outperforming them, that pride comes into you and that motivates you to go even further. So I think that sort of was a stepping stone in my career. Was like, wow, I'm actually doing this. But then I wanted, the Samoan word is, kawivi, right? So it's pushing the young ones. The sky's the limit, but if you limit yourself, you will never understand what you're capable of. So I know I'm getting long-winded because I owe it to Uchenna and Moni. Good mention of the AI. But before I go to Uchenna and Moni, I want to acknowledge the two comments that I see so far. Can you bring one up? And this one is from Tama Samoa in the Bay Area. Many youths choose trades over work after high school to support their family, avoid college costs, and find quicker, meaningful jobs. Thank you. And I think that touched on like what Kalani mentioned earlier. Us as Samoans, we never forget the falavelave. So even though there may be a longer path, right? The longer path which pays more, at the end of the day, mom and dad are screaming "Falavelave," right? So you're like, how can I support the Falavelaves if I'm pursuing a higher degree? So I need to go and work at Subway or doing something to pay, the Falavelaves. So that it's a hard part for us Samoan people because the pressure we still feel the weight of the Falavelaves on our backs because we can't neglect our parents. Okay, sorry. Let's bring up the next one. As a parent, this is from Tene Tahine. I hope I pronounced that correct. As a parent, I looked into a four-year colleges, 2-year colleges, and trade schools, apprenticeships as much as I could, and then learned about financial aid, scholarships, and ways to pay for school. Okay. Choices and options are always great for our children. Exactly. And parents often have to invest a lot and early on in their children's education to help make school a positive and worthwhile experience. So, so hearing it from every perspective, and absolutely Tama Samoa. So thank you for our viewers for supporting our podcast. And so I'm going to turn it over to one of our guys that seems like he's never done with education. He's full of all sort of academics. Brother Uchena, let's hear your perspective.
Tailava. Wow, this is a topic that I talk about a lot. I speak about this way too much in my dealings in life, and I want to say two things before I start. The first one is, we always hear the phrase, right? Knowledge is power, and you're right, it is. But the right knowledge is power, right? Because anybody can fill your head up with anything, right? It's what you start to believe and start to formulate around is where you're going to start to run into the thinking process. This is a career versus college. This is what I like to think of this, right? This is a very touchy topic for a lot of people. Pacifica, in the Black and brown community, it's very big. I'm a first generation. And I'll put that out there first. Being a first generation college graduate, I'm now on my doctorate degree, and it's in human services, right? And I'm dealing with the community, especially our marginalized and communities, as well as the communities where we're disenfranchised and disadvantaged, right? In a lot of communities, especially in the Pacific culture, there's often tension between pursuing a trade or getting a job early, right? We heard it thus far with the stories of, am I going to go into the military, or am I going to get this scholarship, right, for football? And I might add this too as a statistic. For the military, American Samoa has the most enlisted soldiers. And we obviously, there's a lot of reasons why. Obviously, duty, service, country, getting off the rock, a lot of things, right? But there's an investment that comes. And I think that the way that we start to channel our dialogue with the generational, especially our youth, is how we project that investment. A career without college often is seen as fast money. It's the practical route. Immediate income, as you hear, support for family can be there. Maybe you get a union job or a skilled trade, but there's also the idea of college for a career. I'm what some people call a lifetime student, a professional student, if you will. And I've obtained multiple degrees, 2 master's degrees, went to school for financial planning, undergraduate in PE and health. But my drive for education might not be like everyone else's. My drive for education became an honorable one. I was put out of high school as a sophomore. I was a tremendous athlete. I went to school in Europe and, just led my school to a European championship in basketball. And education for me took an abrupt stop because of a choice. And that choice was an innocent one. But the truth of the matter was I was now in this place where I had to pick a route. Being that my parents were military, I knew that I can go into this service and serve this country, but I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for college either, but I knew that this was an honorable thing to do, right? Carrying out the hopes and the sacrifices of what our family members have carried on for us, but often, especially being a first generation student, I knew that me going to college would come a crippling debt, right? And also a cultural disconnection, right? That we often see when people start to go to school. So I remember my first experience. I went to my father. I looked at the University of Maryland, Mannheim, Germany. Told my father I wanted to go to college there. He asked me with what money. And the first thing I was told was, you can get a Stafford loan. At that time, I needed a co-signer because I was only 16, started my freshman year in college. So now I'm sitting with my father, like, Dad, why don't you co-sign these papers for me to go to college? And he's like, okay, what is this? And, we didn't go into the whole credit score and all of that. He was like, oh, this is your dream. This is what you want to do. I'm going to invest in it. So he signed the paper, not knowing, and this is the honest to God truth. I carried that debt from that first loan 20-something years. I mean, this is because you're constantly going to school, you're in forbearance, and that alone crippled me when I finally seen the amount. If somebody would have told me to pay $50 a month, $20 a month, I would have probably been out much better and seen the investment. But which leads me to my second thing, cultural weight on education, right? Raising my kids and teaching them not only about their Samoan culture, but their Nigerian culture, and their heritage, even learning about the new Native American. Education is not just for the individual. It's a collective investment, right? This is an investment that your village is taking behind. They're putting on for you. Your family is putting on for you. This is your legacy. And a lot of times we think about this success, but it's often defined by these diplomas, these titles, and these salaries. And I love what Brother Kalani said. If we could just go back to when we were innocent, when none of the spoils of the world took us over, right? But this is cultural success, because one of the things that you're often being, especially now that I'm coming to light to learn more of myself, now I'm becoming more defined internally, right? And that definition, along with the education, now allows me to be of service. It allows me to understand humility even more. But one of the biggest things it allows me to do is contribute. So one of the questions I ask, and I'm a former Division II college basketball coach, women's basketball coach on top of that, right? One of the things that I've always done when I step in homes to recruit kids is I tell them I'm in the business of changing lives, and so are you. And they have to understand what that reflection means. I've had them all play on my team: Samoan, Tongan, Arabic, Jordanian. I've had them all. And culture is the definition, especially outside of America, right? But I let them understand what that investment is. It's a collective spirituality, service, individual achievements. It's a communal uplift to have that. But at the end of the day, what I remind them of is this system was not built for us, right? We have to be honest with ourselves to understand what we're getting into. College was not designed with Samoan culture or other cultures in mind. And most institutions don't reflect our values. They don't. I mean, you would have to go to the University of South Pacific maybe to be around like-minded individuals, but the founding fathers that came into the Harvards, the Browns, the Penns, was there a Samoan at the table? Was there a Black or brown at the table when they were starting to create the educational process, right? That now is often forced on us as individuals, because what I found to be the most intriguing, especially when I started my educational journey, is what has changed for you, right? Are you code switching now? Are you muting out your culture? Are you overperforming now to belong to something that is now taking you away from something that has been so dear to you? So now when we look back at the Pacific youth, we have to thrive. We have to tell them not only how to feel in these new environments that are becoming, because now we're seeing more people come to the Americas, right? I have cousins that are in New Zealand that are coming to the Americas to go to school, right? And taking that back to their states and cultures, and now trying to be, big influences in their environments. But they need to know how to feel, build, and see results that are going to redefine their success, right? Not just for ourselves, but for them. And we have to remind ourselves, college or career, it's purpose. Either one you're going to do. At the end of the day, bring your culture with you, right? Bring them into these spaces. I've learned, and I'm in Web3. I heard somebody mention Web3 and NFTs. I'm big into that. I'm big into Bitcoin. I've been trying to help our people heal in more ways than you know. Because a lot of healing, financial responsibility and financial aptitude plays a very part in that. A lot of ties have been broken. A lot of homes have been dispersed because of financial strains. So now we start to bring that in the idea. If I go into a home and tell a kid, I'm going to recruit you to come play at this school for me. At the end of the day, you're going to make $100,000 off this NIL, and that's it. You're going to go on your merry way. Then I haven't invested in this kid because there's more to it. Money is not the end all be all. They have to understand the responsibility of now, are they healing? Are they hustling? Because if you're hustling, that $100,000 is going to become, minute. You're now going for $1 million. But if you're healing, that $100,000 can change. That paycheck is not just the cap and gown now. It's becoming whole. It's serving others. It's building something that outlives you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother Eugene. I'm trying to wrap this up. Before I elaborate further on what you just put out, I also want to say thank you for your service. A lot of folks may not recall, my brother is already retired and he's pursuing all these educational pursuits. So collectively, I think to summarize what I've heard so far is whichever path that you pursue, it's your preference whether you're pursuing it for your own gain or whether you're pursuing it for the family or for the community. But then we also talked about financial literacy. Now, financial literacy is probably a separate topic. You probably don't need to go to trade school or college to understand that. It's just simple budgeting. I know I didn't need in the college education to tell me how to be financially sound and how I manage my money. So, but that's another aspect, especially for those who are struggling to meet ends. And then the last part for all of us Polynesian folks is whether you do it for yourself and your own individual family as your family grows, or if you're still like the majority of Polynesians, your money is still going to the greater family back wherever island you're from, or to the greater community, or to the church. So a lot of different ways to divert that income that you're attaining. So let me see. Before we go to our next topic, I want to grab a few more comments from online. Okay. We are in a rapidly evolving world. Samoan youth must learn to use these new technologies that's taking over the world or get left behind. That is so true. One must be careful when using one's own experience and perspectives and projecting them. This is a different time for our children. Yep. Acknowledge. The verbiage used in discussion with our children about further education cannot come from a place of victimhood. To see the South Asian populations, these cultures adopted education first. Okay. Right. Okay. So thank you, panel. Very well put. And I think Brother Moni is going to pass on this subject. So let's get on to our next one.
Real quick, Famun Mole.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want
Brother
to
Moni.
address the comment. Is that okay?
Yeah, floor is yours.
Okay, Faftai Lava. And the beauty about this is that as panel members, sometimes we could feel like we blab on so much, but I'm so grateful that we're able to interact and respond to comments in real time. And thank you so much, by the way, for the comments. Thank you, Clyde Moore, for your comment. One must be careful when using one's own experiences and perspectives and projecting them. This is a different time for our children. I appreciate the comment, but I have to respectfully disagree. Uh, I feel like censoring censoring our speech and our experiences goes against who we are as Pacifica. Um, our experiences are oral for a reason. That's part of our identity. We pass these stories and experiences down to the next generation, and the next generation. I say, this is how we gain wisdom. For an example, the Alanga Upus, the Proverbs, those are experiences. And from those Proverbs from our ancestors, we learn about life and problem solving. But I do respect the perspective of the comment. As far as our verbiage used in discussions with our children about further educating cannot come from a place of victimhood. Um, I I understand. I understand the verbiage of the comment, but I also would like to emphasize that this one size fit all education system does not work. And there's a difference between navigating academia and navigating indigenous knowledge. Now, going to the prompt, why is most of our people going to trade schools instead of the traditional college? I remember I went to during undergrad, one of my professors in trigonometry, I could not pass that class for the life of me. She turned to me and she said, "You know what, Mr. Peely? Just do the bare minimum and get that paper. That's all that matters. 98% of the stuff you're going to learn in college, you're not going to remember anyways." That did something to me, not as a victim, but as a participant in this system. That told me that my best effort not it was invalid and it was irrelevant. Uh, and so, uh, also going back to experience, because I feel like this is important. When I first came to America, I was in my school teacher's classroom, and the whole map on the wall that was drawn and painted by her, and she was so mimika and so proud. And she told me, any country in the world you're going to find on my map, kids, and in my textbooks. And those of us who went to school back in the 1900s remember that the textbooks did not even have maps that had Samoa in it. And the whole country was going to the world learning about a world in school where people like us did not exist. So that told me something at a young age, that even school isn't perfect. Even the parameters of what we learn, this one size fit all system does not work for me, even though I went through it, because the system told us that that was the only way we were going to succeed in this environment, was through school. Uh, and I remember attending a intersectional conference and a Pacific Islander education forum back in 2018. And according to the EPIC report with minority health, in California alone, where we had over 150 Samoans, 90% of Samoan individuals 25 and older did not go to college and finish and obtain a bachelor's degree. Now, I'm bringing that statistic up because, one, it was measuring success based on degrees and not based on career and based on contribution to family livelihood. O tātou tangata Samoa, o tātou na te punga mai ele. And so, um, I, I, when we talk about whether we oppose or whether we're for or whether we are neutral on the school system, between choosing traditional college pathways or going to trade schools, fili le mea e moai le manuia o lo ainga. Uncle Paulo from Amanave in Samoa has a third grade education. But before going out to swim in Amanave, where the waves are dangerous on one day and yet peaceful another, he told us not to go swim because the storm is coming. And there was no cloud in the sky. What happened? 30 minutes later, rainstorm, heavy winds, high waves. He didn't go to school for that because he learned that indigenously. And so I may go off topic, but I didn't want to only because I didn't want to come off as I don't like the system. And that's not the case. I say, do you, boo? Whatever brings you manuia and whatever gives you, a sense of purpose in life, whether it's going to school, because I myself is still paying off these student loans. Am I saying that it was a waste? Absolutely not. It has contributed to my growth and my success in life. But are there other pathways? Absolutely yes. And I say navigate through those choices and options that we have between trade schools, between traditional college, whatever that pathway may be. We are navigators of the Pacific. It is in our DNA. Use that gift to navigate through the system. Yeah, also manatu vai vai na.
Mahalo le faso.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Um,
Can I add one little piece in there? Just one little piece at the end. I think one of the biggest things, and Mona, you said it so well, right? Like I couldn't agree with you more with that. There is a piece of education is all indoctrination. It's all, you're indoctrinating someone, right? You're learning of the old, it's of the ancient. When you go, if you're in a classroom, you're not, the real time is AI. That's real time. In the classroom, you're learning the process, right? And so a lot of education is colonized. It is not, it has to be decolonized. And I'm going to be very blunt with you because of at the end of the day, you're right. When I'm telling my kid to go to school, that I want him to do better, go further than I am, there's an experience piece in there because I know the choices that I made. But at the end of the day, whether you're in the classroom or whether you're in a trade, you're cutting hair, we're seeing Pacifica blend in and getting into everything right now. Whether you're the carrier of the wisdom, if the work uplifts you and the work you're doing uplifts the people and honors the culture, then you are doing the sacred work. And I think that is how we have to start to maneuver our dialogue and the rhetoric with the next generation, because the value bar has now shifted. For us, those who was born in the 1900s, the value of education and the value of the work was totally, the narrative is different. Now, we have influencers, we have all these things happening that are now interjecting on our youth. And so how it's being shaped is going to be the bigger piece. And I appreciate you for sharing that, Moni.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we haven't touched upon is depending on what fields you're pursuing and what type of career you want to have. If you want to be a politician, if you want to like be a governor of American Samoa or anywhere in the Pacific, it's likely you're going to have to need it. You probably need a degree unless you really know someone. So what we need to reinforce is a degree is not really bad, but look at the specialties and whatever you're trying to pursue in life. If that's going to be a limitation because you don't have that degree, well, play the game and go and chase that degree. It may be hard, but what I'm trying to emphasize to our young ones is my experience has always been, you don't belong over there. The degrees are for, those type of people. And I've always felt like, growing up, it was an intimidation, and we always were put in a certain class that is not for you. And then because you challenge the norm and you realize actually that was garbage, I actually can do this, and we need to push that towards our kids. There's a lot of messages that are missed signals that are directed towards our youth and saying don't go to college because it's a waste of time. It's true if you're pursuing those, for anyone that gets offended, garbage degrees. If you choose, basket weaving, guess what? You're going to get paid as a basket weaver. So, for most of us on the other end, that pursue degrees that are very, very valuable. Like you're talking about, mid hundred thousands to 200 to 300,000, range. That's what you're playing with. And I know a lot of people look at that and say, yeah, that's not enough. But still, compared to trade, if you can make that, right off the bat, that's where you make that comparison. If trade can produce the same amount as you can, because I'm always challenging people and I always say, okay, here's how much I make. How much do you make? And then, like, okay, at the end of the day, how many hours are you producing in a trade compared to what I'm doing? So I'm doing like at a minimum 8 hours and that's it a day. Some people are pushing 14 hours to make, 14 plus hours a day to make what I make. So yeah, you are making my kind of money, but you are breaking your back. So I'm not really downing the trade. I'm just saying, if you're going to make comparisons from apples to apples, but don't compare trades versus the lower end degrees because there are a lot of people who are falling short because they're choosing those degrees that are just meaningless. And those are people that that message applies to. So okay, I think we've killed that one. So let's see where we at on time. So we'll try to get through this one. I enjoy this topic because this one hits home for me. And this one we're going to life and retirement. And when we talk about retirement, the question becomes for us off island, we go and we work and we work and work, and then when it's time to retire, we want to go back to Samoa. Do you want to go back to Samoa and retire, or whatever other Pacific island you're from? But then isolating that on the Samoan people, there's always a term that is associated once we get into our elderly age, and the question is the role of which child is responsible for caring for the elderly. And I've heard it numerous times, and it's always unwritten rule that it's the females that are responsible for caring for the parents. But that may not necessarily be true. But I want to hear your thoughts on that saying. Is it the female's responsibility to care for the elderly, whether it's your parents or grandparents? Let's start with Brother Moni.
Oh boy. Yeah, Faftai Ole Emafangatoi Fola Mailif City. Can you say that question, the prompt question one more time, please?
Yeah, so we talked about, now that we've post careers and we're now settling, we've reached the age of retirement, and slowly we're getting to, the elderly age. We can't take care of ourselves, and from our perspective in the Samoan community, it's always some child, but for some reason we always hear it's the female's responsibility to take care of the parents. What are your thoughts? Is that something true, or just something that dependent on families?
Thank you. Coming from as a person who took care of his grandparents on both sides, paternal and maternal, until their last day, it was a great honor to have been their caregiver, their appointment scheduler, their pharmacy, their hygiene specialist. But it was also a greater honor to be nurtured and cared by them. And that's the difference between Polynesian Pacific Islander psychology and Western psychology. Our behaviors and our biopsychosocial experiences within the Ainga. I remember I went fishing with my grandparents, and the old man, I remember going into the water back home in Samoa, and fishing can be very dangerous, especially when done at night. And the old man says, "Son, pipi vai makikao. Pipi mai vai akia. Ai pipi mai kiao. Ire afia oi. Ai a se aku oi. Ya kalusia ele o atu ya oi se tulanga ele tau. in English. He said, "Son, in these waters, stick to me and be by my side, and you will be safe. But if you stray away in the water, danger will come." That taught me a big lesson. As a provider and a caretaker to me, he gave me security, he gave me comfort, and he was the person to save my life in times of danger. Then you fast forward many years later, and the roles have now reversed. And it is unfathomable to think that it is not your place to take care of them when they are vulnerable. Itawi lealofa lealofa. Love is paid with love. And it was the greatest honor of my life to take care of my parents, my grandparents, which was taught to me at a young age. Yoe e fo'i tulanga ese tuatu. There are other factors to consider. Yeah, there was, do I continue working? Do I continue going to school? But to me, and that's the difference between Islander psychology and Western psychology, is that it is more than just putting family first. It's also deeper and more spiritual than that. And for example, I'm not female. I'm male. And to me, Yoe, it's common to see daughters take care of their parents. But it's not also uncommon to see males take care of their parents. You see it all the time back home in Samoa. I have a lot of cousins who are taking care of the elderly back home. Maybe because of the circumstances, they're the only ones home while everyone is working, going to school, whatnot, whatever the parameters may be around that predicament and circumstance. But me, taking care of my grandparents, uh, uh, there's this thing called the va. Ole va, va tapuia. This va is the space in this relationship that is sacred. And within this va, especially le va a oimo matua, eitua oi. In this va and space and relationship are also boundaries. And sometimes these boundaries should not be crossed, but sometimes there are exceptions because of the changing of our roles in the family through time. And one of the va between me and my grandmother when it came to hygiene, and I may have family who are listening to this and they understand too. There was a time when I was bathing my grandmother, and as a male, at the time, at first, I was like, oh, it's nothing. This is grandma. She changed my diapers, Duloa, Lingana. Excuse my description. But when I saw my grandmother's face every time I was bathing her and helping her with her hygiene in specific areas, I would see her face and she would cry. And in the beginning, I was like, Grandma, you're crying. I don't know why you're crying. Am I hurting you? Am I too hard? Molola kalima o lalima fuango ekangi. And every time, same thing, Grandma, her response is this in tears. Kalo fai kama. Ia whamanguia le akua ia ke oi. So se mea te manao ai. Ia fōa I mai le alofa maranga leile atua ia oi. Malo o langa. Ia manguia lo lumangai. She would pronounce this while I am giving her this bath. And it's because I realized growing up that there was a boundary leo o sopo because of the circumstance and the exception. And I truly believe it was those prayers that saved my life throughout my life. And so to answer the question, what is it? Is it female? Is it daughters? Is it sons? To me, I don't think caregiving or caretaking of elders is based on gender. It's deeper than that. Ese fatino, ese longona. It's not our actions, it's more of our inner being and our nurturing skill sets. Some of us have it, some of us don't. I remember taking care of grandma and grandpa, and every time I leave, and a girl would come, and next thing you know, fire money's out. Fire money's out, or it could be vice versa. You take care of grandpa, it's like, oh no, call one of the girls to come. It's not because I was a boy or a girl. It's not because I had it was my gender, leai. I feel like, and this is where, as Polynesians and Pacific Islanders, we delve into masculinity and femininity. And there's this toxic masculinity, and there's also toxic femininity too. And I think I just had traits that can be perceived as feminine, even though I was masculine. Uh, I was soft-hearted. I was obedient. I didn't talk back. I was able to cook. I could clean. I can do all these things that sometimes may be based on gender roles, but that's not the case in Pacifica and Polynesian and Samoan families. Uh, po o ai tangata o loto alofa, maloto angalelei, o tangata na e siri atu e tausi e tatou matua. Uh, um, and I close with this. It's generational. I remember I was carrying luggage, groceries on both of my hands, and my buttons on my shirt started to unbutton. And I told my younger sister, I go, "Hey, come button my shirt." And she looked at me, rolled her eyes. She's like, "Eh." And I go, "Hey, don't fall Itapora, because you're gonna take care of me when you grow older." And she looked at me and she goes, "No, brother, my kids are gonna take care of you." And so that is the type of environment that we grew up in. We all take care of each other. I think the what's also important is defining what those boundaries are. And what I mean is, do we close in those boundaries to specifically just caregiving and that's it? Or should we expand the boundaries to where we can be fluid and still work on our improvement in our life and thrive while at the same time taking care of loved ones? Again, that's something about navigating, and that's what we do as Pacifica people. We navigate through these roles and through these spaces, whether it is whatever hat you're wearing today or tomorrow or throughout the day, you navigate. Um, and so that's my answer and my 2 cents concerning gender roles when it comes to taking care of our elders. I don't think it's not so much gender. It's more if you have the heart for service. And there is heart work and there is hard work, and the two run together. And yeah, yeah. So manatu vai vaile na faftai.
Thank you, Brother Moni. Lasso, can you bring that one that just popped up? Jeez. Salute to whoever is the male or female that take care of their elderly. It's a spiritual experience taking care of our elderly. Very true. So before I go, sorry, before I go to our next panel member, just trying to capture some of the points made by Brother Moni. Um, he hit it, the comfort in the quality of love you provide. So I think that that's very important. Um, and then I also think touching on what he said, maybe you're the one that they trust the most and rather spend their elderly years with more time with you over the next child or grandchild or so forth. Maybe you're their favorite, so they have trust in you. Tina says, whoever that speaker was, thank you so much. I felt every word you said. Faftai lava. Okay. So thank you, Brother Moni. Even our viewers are thanking you. So I'm going to go over to Brother Kalani. Lasso Faso.
Hey, thank you. Sorry, I was kind of MIA for a second, but
Well, you're good.
um, I think it's a communal a service as far as siblings. My experience. I just want to say that I want to apologize to our viewers as if most of our opinions are which does based on facts is from our experience, but I think that it's more valid if we base some of the stories and some of the topics to our experience, because it does validate some of the points that we actually talk on these topics. And then apologize in advance, but um, it's for my mother. She's living with me right now, and growing up as a kid, my mom and I don't see eye and eye. She would look at me and I would look at her, and then I would probably say something to her that I like to do to piss her off, so that way she can just say something really bad. And then I just take it upon myself and just walk away. It's like, all right. So it's like a game to me, but at the same time, it's the type of relationship that my mother and I have developed. Always having fun. Hopefully that she does realize that. And now she's getting up there, and then of course declining on a health wise, but still blessed to have the opportunity to be here with her, you know. And I would talk to my sister, and then my sister's asking, "Oh, how's mom?" And I would tell her, "Oh, she's doing fine and everything." She's always asking about you, which she would never uh, say that in front of me. And recently, about a month ago, she was asking about my sister, and I told her, "Wow, if you out of I and all of a sudden her eyes start, like a happiness, like a relief just came out of her. And I looked at her and I was like, wow, I hope that she's not feeling that she's been confined in so long with me dealing with this guy over here, putting up with all the crap that. But the reason why I think that is because of the relationship that we developed ever since when I was young. But I was thinking to myself, you know what? Let me ask her. So I asked her, you want to go see your daughter? And she was happy. And you know what? I was like, you know what? I got you. Open the laptop, booked her flight and everything. Mom, you are leaving in a month. And she was happy. She said, "Oh, okay, fafkaila ba siya o kadi?" All of a sudden she started being nice, and. So my point is, I guess no matter uh whoever the sibling is actually taking care, and when our elderly parents and maybe our other grandparents, like Brother Boni was saying, it's a communal service. They will always have that love with whatever child that they're spending with. And when they spend that time with that child, they want to visit the other child as well. So that's probably why I take it upon experience to where that my mother was like, okay, I'm enough with this bald head guy. Excuse the language. I'm ready to go see my daughter. So um, my thing is, we believe in service, we believe in love, and I think that's to anybody else with anybody's parents. And as a Polynesian, we're always proud when it comes to our parents, because we always have that love towards our family, but mostly our parents, because we know that in lifetime we're going to be on our own. And Brother Moni had touched a lot of basis on how who is caring for our parents, regardless if it's your oldest sister, if the oldest sister or brother, male or female. But I think that we've discussed. I can't remember, but I think it's towards to our female and our sister side. I think it's in an unspoken rule that Leaso was talking about. That growing up, of course, I see a lot of our older sisters, older cousins, females that are actually taking care of our grandparents. But nowadays, I think life had changed to where that I think it's anybody else now, or to me, I think it's whoever the favorite guy or the favorite child is that the parents will choose. So my take upon it is that kudos to all of you guys that are actually spending time with your loved ones, especially
Amen.
your elderly parents, because I think it's hard. It's really hard. It'll be okay if it's just you, but I think that your significant other does play a role as well. And just being realistic. And any of you guys are having a good time or spending a good having a good relationship with your in-laws, please do so because it does cherish that. And you know, so um, don't want to go further too much about it, but I just want to say that spend some time with your elderly, even grandkids, Polynesians, no matter where you're at, whoever's listening to our podcast. Uh, you might learn something that it's your older your eldest ancestor or your grandparents will say something that you will never know that you might penetrate your heart to where that you can keep it for the rest of your life and pass it all down to your kids and your kids' kids. There's some stories that they love to tell, and I think that's one of the great memories and great things too is that when I get to sit down and ask my mother some questions, hey, can you explain me your life and everything, which I am very, very proud of it. Kept some notes down to where that from
Mm.
his life story since when she was born all the way till right now. So um, history is something that we we should always keep it, always have it because not only that, it's our like what Brother Chena was saying, it's our bloodline. Keep it going. So and that's all I have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Kalani, and I want to commend you both, Brother Moni and Kalani, for stepping up and taking that role. It's never easy volunteering that time, but it goes back to that the love, the nurturing that we had as kids, and as mentioned earlier, it's how can we not return the favor that love that we also received when we were young, and I think that's the spirit that lives within us. As Polynesian people, is it's our responsibility. It's a duty that we have to return that to our elderly. And I thank all of you guys that have served in that role. And also, just a quick shout out to my brother Junior, who took care of my parents. For so many years, him and his wife, and also my sister Janet, who's currently taking care of my dad. So um, yeah, a lot of this is hitting home, and just want to say really appreciate those who stepped up in those roles. It's not easy because it's interrupting your own life to provide that service for your family. Um, let's go to. Let me take one comment, and I'll go to Crystal because Crystal is also taking care of her mother. Okay. Um, okay. Every time an elderly passes away, it's like a library burning down. So visit your living libraries as much as you can. Yep. Amen. Okay. All right.
Oh,
Crystal, the floor is yours.
thank you. Oh man, Moni has said everything that I wanted to say, but to add on, when I was growing up, my grandmother would always say, "Ole tite ole ole tamaitai," is to take care of their parents, and that was something that was huge on me because being the oldest, at least in my family, um, a lot of responsibility fell on my shoulders, being the oldest. And so a lot of the times, while people were trying to have fun and everything like that, I was I was the one that had to make all the hard choices, being the oldest in our family. And in my situation, my parents, my dad that raised me is the one that is not my biological dad, but he has been such a wonderful dad to me. I didn't even notice a void of not having my biological dad in my life. But I love them dearly, and he would always just keep asking me or telling me, the importance of taking care of your parents when they're old. And so that has been something that has been one of the things I love about our culture is because our love for our elders. It doesn't matter if it's your aunt or your grandmother that raised you, but when we get to that particular age, we are the ones that are responsible depending on who it is that's chosen in your household or who it is that your mom or dad is most likely to have that special bond and relationship with. The one thing that I love and adore about our culture, especially the Polynesian culture, is that we take good care of our parents. And so, at least with me, I love my parents with all my heart, my mind, and soul. I'm sure all of you do as well. And it's because they have done whatever it is that they could to provide the best for us and um, to give us the best life. And so I'd always think to myself, I didn't have that opportunity with my dad because he passed away shockingly, but I have this opportunity now with my mom. Now that she's older and she's ill, I have this opportunity to at least take great care of her and not have her worry about anything, as far as finances, as far as her appointments, as far as, getting her pills. Thankfully, she could still do the hygiene stuff. But if she needs me, I'm there. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity that I have to at least stay home with her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that way I could be with her. And all the elders want in this lifetime is that time with family. My brother, he works in the senior center. A majority of the time, they say the parents would often say they wish they had their children there to spend as much time with them, and just having that void. And so, if there's anything that I could say to the next generation after after us, is to continue our care and love. And to me, it's not gender specific. I think it's nurture. Women are natural nurturers, is the reasons why. From generation to generation, at least in my family, they had said that it's the daughter's responsibility, regardless of whether if you're the oldest, usually the oldest, and or the youngest. But I think these days it's whoever has the, like what Moni had said, the empathy, the heart, um, who has the willingness to be able to go through of taking care of the parents, because it's really hard. It's not easy. It's not something that's really simple, because there are a lot of things that we have to deal with, especially if they're going through Alzheimer's. And so the constant worries of waking up in the middle of the night, and I'm just want to say I'm so grateful to have a husband who is very supportive as well, who's there when I'm not there, and he cooks, he cleans, he takes her out for walks and everything like that. And he just does it all if I'm not able to. So, it just is a plus to have a significant other to be able to help carry that on. And so, in essence, our agreement is for us to go back home because his mom is still alive in American Samoa. So we'd like to go home as well. That way, we could go ahead and take that opportunity to take care of her and mom while they're still alive. But yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sis Crystal, and also thank you for taking that role and taking care of your mom as well. So I know she appreciates having that child to be there with her, providing that care. Okay, so it comes down to two, but I can give the floor to both of you guys. So we have 6 minutes, but out of that 6 minutes, we also have to do our round robin. So um, I'm gonna go with Leaso, brother Jenna. Gonna hold off on you, Leaso. You have 1 minute to provide your response.
I think everyone who has spoken about this topic has really touched everything on the surface. What I would end up doing is just repeating what they said. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Chenna, so he can have his time to speak on it. But
Okay.
thank you, everybody. I don't want to be a baby on here crying and taking up too much time. So Thank you.
Okay, Ichena, you have 1 minute, and I will cut you off when you get to the 1 minute line. Sorry, we got there because I want to make sure we go through our round robin and close it out. All right, time's yours, Ichena.
Tainala. Just I'm gonna piggyback, but I want to say one thing that I think Crystal really hit on. I lost my mother to cancer. My father's still alive. He's dealing with some health ailments and everything. My older sister took care of my mother. But times are changing, and I want to just acknowledge that we are now a global generation, right? And some of us are far from home, and caregiving looks different. It's not going to look the same as it is in Samoa or in Tonga or in Fiji, you know. But some families don't have daughters. And when you don't have daughters, the caring for the children or working full time, that now looks different. Everything is changing in our world. The elders aren't. The elders themselves, they have a preference. And when they have trust, they want whoever they can trust near. So at the end of the day, this is not just a female responsibility. It is a community responsibility. This is a family affair. And I wish my mother was alive to have more opportunities to take care of her when she was dealing with her stuff. But, I knew that my older sibling, my older sister, that was what she wanted to do. And she took that responsibility in full force. I want to commend and just give my opportune prayer for all of you that are dealing with your family members right now and being caregivers. It takes a lot. So I want to give you my personal responsible prayer to you all for taking on that role. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ichena. And so we have 3 minutes before closure. We're at the top of the hour. So as we normally do when we have our panel, we want to give thanks to everyone that spent your volunteer time. No one's being paid here, but we're grateful that you share your lifetime experience with us and sharing the issues and the struggles that you've been through, just to share with our other brothers and sisters beyond the Samoa borders, because we understand that this also impacts you. So before we close out the night, we'll go back to Brother Uchenna. We'll all say our last words and then we'll close it out. You're on mute, Brother Jenna. You're on mute.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what was going on. Big fat fingers, small keys. Ouch. Sorry, but I just want to just remind people that conversations that we have are not about guilt. It's about honor. It's about respect. The dialogue that we need to have is the healing dialogue moving forward. And I think that this is a responsibility we all bring to the table. I'm grateful to be in recognition in a balance with a community such as this, to be able to share that heartbeat, that one heartbeat with the community. So, Father Time Mole Avanoa, for this opportunity, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Chena. Usamoni.
Ia, whaftai mo le awanoa wa matou maua e awai I le nei pano, I le nei talanoanga. O se whaeanga siri I le whaasoa o le nei awanoa ai mese le sunga taitai ma o e o loo whaafonga mai I lunga mai penga te whailangi. Ia, o le whaasoa se mea le lei, I le whaalongolongo mai whesoa inga ai mese manatu ese. Tā ua le tala noa, o ina tātou te ao ai le tasi ma le tasi. It is an honor to be here serving and sharing my thoughts in the shadows of all the great people on this panel. I look up to each and every one of them. I'm grateful for all of you who are listening, whether in real time or in the future. Discussions and talking in Talanoa is important. This is where we share our ideas and our thoughts, and this is where we learn from one another. Ya afai wo sasi foi se tau talanga, ya fa malu luatu I le paia man malu o we wo fa afonga mai, ya upu Samoa, a sala uta, ya tonu tai. If the mountains have offended you, We pray you find healing in the seas and in the waters. It has been such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Alofa tu moto soifo.
Thank you, Brother Moni. Sis Crystal.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here on this panel. I just really wanted to stress that in order for us to move forward with healing, we need to have, specific topics that may be uncomfortable. And in order for us to get our points across, so that way we can understand, comprehend, and move forward from those, from the trauma that has caused generational trauma from generation to generation. In order to heal that, we got to start from ourselves first. When we heal from within, we can help heal multiple generations thereafter. Thank you so much again for the opportunity. And you guys have a blessed day today or night.
Thank you, Sis Crystal. Yeah. Brother Kalani.
Well, thank you so much for taking the lovely Tato panel. Same thing. Just wanted to say that it's always a pleasure and it's always a blessing to be a part of this panel. And like what Sis Chris was saying is that I think that, you know, love love sharing, love sharing thoughts and always talk. Your significant other, your siblings or anybody. It's part of the healing process as well. And some of the topics that if we may have touched any hearts out there, we're grateful to be able to provide some inputs. But if we have said anything that triggered anything or any thoughts to somebody, please forgive us. We're just here to share our opinions and our experiences, and hopefully that it penetrates somebody's heart to where that they can share it to others as well. And information is always a powerful thing that when we share it with each others as well. But lava ya manuia telel tato po, so fua ma ya manuia.
Thank you, Brother Kalani. And Sis Leaso.
Just wanted to thank our panel for taking the time out of their evening to be with us to talk on the topics, and also not even just for tonight, even our meetings that leading up to tonight's panel, taking that time out to talk and discuss and plan for this evening and make it the success that it is already. It's a blessing to have you all, and also those who are also our other panel members who are on the side who couldn't make it. We're so grateful for them as well, and their inputs that they have sent to us individually. It is, I don't know if anyone knows this, but you guys have been selected, picked because of the spiritual guidance that we received in selecting you all. It wasn't something that we just, you know, why don't we just pick this person, that person, this person? No, it was actually spiritually given to us in a way where, just like when I talk to Arlington, we always have meetings and talks about, how do you feel about this? And we had to think about it and pray about it. And so do know that all that has come in place is through the guidance of thy spirit. And so we're so grateful for that. And I also wanted to touch base on one person mentioned when an elder passes away, there goes the library. I had a blessing to receive stories from my grandma, and so when we talk about these topics, it always leads back to family, and it's so important that we heal first at home, first individually, because if we do, we'll be able to move forward. And so we hope that this platform allows us to be able to use it as a way to heal and also share and help those in our Pacifica, that they can use this platform to be able to help one another and be able to grow in success instead of leaning backwards, but we can all move forward. And in that, that's my piece. And thank you again.
Well, I won't add any more to what was already said, and the panel has already expressed you know, their thoughts on each subject that we discussed today. But I do want to give thanks to all our viewers out there because without you, we would just be talking to no one. So that's why it's critical to have your input and appreciate everything that was shared from online. and we'll continue to share our experiences, with Samoa and beyond Samoa. So that all being said, I think there was one question early on. I just want to answer the question, and sorry we didn't get to you. They asked what was my title. So right there, Tasia Afe. I think that was the only thing that we didn't answer. But thanks again to all our viewers, and we just want to send our blessings to all of you. God bless and have a good night.
Can I say one more thing, if you guys don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to put my hand on
Oh, snap.
I just want to say that with all of the tragedies and everything going on, that's Leaso and I from Texas.
Yes.
Just want to pay my condolences to all the families that are affected here in Texas.
Thank
Prayers.
you.
Yeah,
Amen,
that's
brother.
all. I just want to say that pray for those families that are infected with all this tragedy. So I just want to put my head on, and then hats off to our panel, and also pay condolences to all these families.
Thank you. Thank
From
you,
us, panel, Pulse of Polynesia, to all the families.
Yeah, I'm glad you
Thank
brought that up. Yeah, condolences to all the
Thank
families
you.
down in the Texas area. I know you two are from the state of Texas. I know it hits home more to you both. Yeah, thank you for reminding us, and also pray for your safety, down in the Texas area, because I know you guys are still getting hit with all the storms that are still coming through. So that being said, yeah, be safe to you both. Yeah, Manguiapo, and
So
sending a
cool
love
up.
to all of you guys.
Yeah.
God be all the glory. Have a good night. And we'll still stay on.